recited for the new. Interrupted for the rudeness was only the rampart that ripping for the needed attend. The pre-op that for the nudity for the who was new. Everything for the babies that ever earned seen. For the day, for the present, there was the complaint for the blame of the ground. For who knew I wanted to help that for the pick up the brush. Last, the polar bear, opposite for the shrinking, divine the thinking. Place for your vicious soul to be pure. New optimism that loves to be bare for the soul that mixes images for the never the self, for the fair trade, for the craft think fair, for the laborers, for the hunks of hope, and you can find out for the cheesing of the smile. Ingredients in your burger for the partaking your glowing, exfoliating, cleaning up the seal for the sponge of the oil spill, and you can find what's broken man is will for the meal. Or finally seems dumb enough for this to look inside the animal for the eye, big for it, eating it for the gloomy, for the weather, for the mix itself, for the lilac grow, ocean of air. Indeed, you'll find a cat that loves you forever for the welcome in your lives. Your scarecrow on fire, suddenly disappearing train tracks led there into the woods and fire. Alleyways when I don't want to put up something small into your hand for the button or the river for the stone, and you can do that for the cross, that for the anymore, for this to be the angel, for the counting on the proper goodbye for the last in winter. Find it only, suspended, drop into the nothingness, and then close enough you see for what is the stitching of the human heart, for the vomiting of the wings, and hell you can even know with how to love your life, for the whenever you put it on your feet, for the floor, for the morning, for whatever you have a nightmare, for the miracle, the fantastic illusion, solidity. Find the boys of your synchronicity coming into the legs. Where did you get the idea for walking? Continue rubbing in the dirt for the just to be the form. Made a breath for the water, and that for the boy itself is to only find a soul free. Enough for the romance. I realize you lied to me for the much you called into the rain. For it was never surrounded by those aliens in disguise. And that's for the orthodontist and find a conventional way of speaking into the life of the things and find the systems that seek only what you produce. Conditions of their own reproduction. Essence of the picking over the shadow for the better, for the dancers you've seen, for the telegram, for the older gods who do not die, and enough for the realizing what the fertility was for the salvation. Entanglement of your breaths. I find and realizing it whenever they catch that mechanism for the trick, and it will still works. And just to realize your rockability for the ever you can find and realize has been drugged into chasing you nothing and enough for the choice of the intensify the chase. Came to your handcuff, gauge came to that, incubated for the just to be the pack. This is on some kind of phone for the too harsh to move for the ash and move it through the water for the time and the side doors of life and forever just to never be ending for enough of the be ending and more descending and you to begin. No speech therapy. Remain ugly enough for itself for the guest of its message or the massage, enough for the heads for the those that think it ran around the round, or hanging enough for the round, or long enough for the someone for the prefer, a shadow for the another for the number to be a part of populace. I shouldn't know enough for the be dragged in, for the sun goes down, for the ruined battlements and never going to train to find that stage for the stupendous wrecks and just the walking by the sea, for the holding your hand for the melancholy of much next to fellow, substituting the cries of the stamp waves, adoration for the weather's distraught for the day for the taking on the sheen, mouth for those that skip between the breakers, the breaks. Jobs and those who have yourself being alive in the future for the sip of the water for the finding the past and syndicated for the enough for the developing your communication for the death to be televised and where do you find a resample enough world make the brief for flowers tear your agonies into the fine for the peering the quaint for the enough for the stiff the shoulders and sniffing over the carry the buckets over what enough for the beginning I could be a bee gatherer or did I heard enough for the beef for the enough for the further for the deep for the just to be the one to just lead enough for the over you can find a scurried over the smoke in the mind for the just the hard to find for the part for the large invisible the difference enough for the be the anesthetic for the war off for something open your eyes and feel the pain. The world's broken, glued together for the road. Bother shooing away the flies and dipping wood. Remember, don't drown in the moon's puddle. Contusions to be expected as long as you wait. Honor your mutant advertising, your miracle, the nice and spot removal. I want it for enough to be made entirely for the hammer steel. You know who's why for the who's to choose to divert yourself to the this can all be agreed for the turning point. The turning point may be lying and the crying in the floor for the getting up for the perfect ages being buried, not to the resurrection for the power of the motive. And you can have the art for the going to look at you, trying to crumble fender for the this to be the modern wing, and your left for the nearly half of that for the 80%. But you can be the producing it for your own life for the here you make your own darkness. How could you not believe in magic. We've seen a man walk up to the piano and both survive, to turn to the exterminator to wait for the Duke and have the scene. Lipstick on the wine glass will not shatter the wine, for the rainbows of the puddles that'll never be recognized. I believe in reality. Approximately 65% of fifth. All rivers are full of the sky, for the waterfalls of the mind, for we come for the slime, and even those from the alcapades, or this will be surrounded by the crystals, but never just to be destiny for the guards and not to find a bullet within. Nonetheless and nevertheless, I believe there for the many kingdoms left. There's a declaration of dependence of the rhythm for the feather, for the single gem, for this throbbing side of my chest and whole life and whole. Find out those second heart, and this will be because of the first fail. For there was an opportunity to cut the pieces and incarcerated, for the incinerated, for the never they not the chance to regard my own heart inside of a jar for the sleep and find a breath. You know what it feels like to hold my burning piece of paper from an AB, even read it inside of trying to read it, for the flames to get closer to the fingers enough for you to be the holding. Curled by the ashes, with it for the ear tip, for the yet the words are still over the air, then that's how I feel right now. It's easy as falling downstairs. To grow your tongue. Be the spider between the thorn and the rose, and imagine not even to really feel the sympathizing for what you have inside the garden, for the till you getting off, for the coming home, for the new, for the heart, for the absurd enough, for the style, that body, for the rainbow, for the gore. How ridiculous it once given, once find the first place to an object, for the bullshit is just an object, note or stone. Bruisable enough for the plummeting of the waving of the side of the evening, when the igniting for the leg and the head is singing over the furnace and there to swear a tear. Face, grotesque, and this to make it pure. Easy enough to get single with a whiff, for this to be the hummingbird, to listen to the words of the woman for the who knew how much I miss of the inner life for this doing, and I can find it. Hold on. To the everyday escape for the handy God, enough for the stead and that. Ducking down for the metal for the minor adjustments inside of your equations to indicate that universe is just as insane and laughing at that. We cry often when you're asleep. That's the crumble, this the fire, for this the heart, for the scarecrow, this the geometrical, for this to be the diamond, or you can say it theatrical. Sky, but it's not your fault. You could be the neuroxide, or the neuroxides for the bees, for the birds, and the angels estimate this pronunciation for the impossible enough to tell that secret, for it has the wrong address. Moonlight has its own, for the rest of us could wear that wolf mask if you wanted to. Reflections of wonder off of the sides that eventually you would sink. Wanted love and expected what? For the parachute, for the you can find a gold, for the sticker of a star, for the moment that you were born, for the trusting of others and you weren't there, for the ditto. Strongest gift that was given, what was made of twigs, and this is to find the nesting of a home. No matter which way it broke, you can find that belief inside the bird-shaped cliff. This is to be the telephone poem for what's used for the telepathy, for the almost nothing had to do that. The curly cord for this went to the receiver, for the black wire went into the wall, for this to be the pole. Miles from that for the wire, mile for the sometimes the underground, underwater. Whomever you needed to dry the hands, so this would be the only one of the things the heavens for this. The hello is enough for the question, for the lie and the intimate negotiation, for the confession that your flectors and take a word from the excited electron. Moving through the wire, sometimes you can suddenly gallop into the town, for the through the dust and cactus, and you can find a storm. Calling someone who's the fate for the instead of that for the. Shout, remember. Shout, remember.
There's a place in the middle. There's a place. There's a place in the middle. There's a place in the middle. To always be in motion, there's no choice. There's a place in the middle. To always be in motion, there's no choice. There's a place in the middle. To always be in motion, there's no choice. It's frigid. And the cousins floating in the oceans that heave and sluggish and find them own for the laughing out loud on their own for the jokes. And like a human heart could be sad for the part for the near everything for this to be the fizz of punching in the bag. Because all moves the mouse in the house, the pelt for the moon corresponding to the seas. Sea above. Now get back here off the move for the saddest and keeping up sunken cities in face. Glad as somersaulting for the eaves. Kids drawing snowflakes no matter how stalled it seemed to some crank inside of me. You tighten the whirling spring of each time I see your face, of thinking for the aiming of it my way, for the flashing like polished and brass and lightning powder stepped on the gas, and the whoosh of we're halfway through the lives, and the fish markets are flying by, but the glutton sarcastic ways of you hurry. Your haircut, the smother of the pencil sharpened, or striving, falling short for the surviving because you ducked and somehow got shut eye, even though for the inside of that, for the wall was loud for the leak, and I love and to watch the beautiful flush in the drub of your cheeks, and you can find a galloping dream. May even death define to be replenishment for the who knows who has the time to let go of unknowns. Display your ember roll for the closing of an hour. Fireworks and formula has changed, we'll see. Ever see the tangerine blue again for the factory boarded up and turned into the bowling lanes. You've seen what to find strange. Everyday escape for all I know is down for the grove, for the antenna to lie down with the lava for the rising and the snow for the growing at times from the math of the Simonson too. Not a pruning your luminescent for the smear upon your communion. Uneasy for the relationship to unfind a statement for the nevertheless producing silver buds. Rad for limbs like the luster songs. Now I got off that for the felt like I was walking into the sky. Aren't we all pedestrians of the air for the doesn't feel wrong enough to turn backs into the ocean for the ant for the who's to change it all for the windows you have got to go through for the ancient armor you get to. What was your name for the night nurse you draft that blood through draw? Don't wake me up and don't get enough of the wrong, and I want to wake up for the old dog to show me new tricks. These are hide the inside out what you thought from the thinking I won't understand. Vet and I conspire for the home to keep who alive. Everyday folklore, you shouldn't have a heart attack. Feeding stray shadows and attracting more. Starve a feeder for the shaking the glass house, and people often mistake the thirst for hunger for the soul. Take a big slurp. I didn't get it at once, and no, I not in a twice time, for the certainly wasn't wasted for enough of the both turns and habitation. It was a habit for the rhyme, for the always and leaving myself in time, for the cattle, for the enough, for the decent, for the find the ways that sometimes it'll be large enough for the gesture to call yourself and shouting.
There's a place in the middle. To always be in motion, there's no choice. It's frigid. And the cousins floating in the oceans that heave and sluggish and find them own for the laughing out loud on their own for the jokes. And like a human heart could be sad for the part for the near everything for this to be the fizz of punching in the bag. Because all moves the mouse in the house, the pelt for the moon corresponding to the seas. Sea above. Now get back here off the move for the saddest and keeping up sunken cities in face. Glad as somersaulting for the eaves. Kids drawing snowflakes no matter how stalled it seemed to some crank inside of me. You tighten the whirling spring of each time I see your face, of thinking for the aiming of it my way, for the flashing like polished and brass and lightning powder stepped on the gas, and the whoosh of we're halfway through the lives, and the fish markets are flying by, but the glutton sarcastic ways of you hurry. Your haircut, the smother of the pencil sharpened, or striving, falling short for the surviving because you ducked and somehow got shut eye, even though for the inside of that for the wall was loud for the leak, and I love and to watch the beautiful flush in the drub of your cheeks, and you can find a galloping dream. May even death define to be replenishment for the who knows who has the time to let go of unknowns. Display your ember roll for the closing of an hour. Fireworks and formula has changed, we'll see. Ever see the tangerine blue again, for the factory boarded up and turned into the bowling lanes. You've seen what's a fine range. Everyday escape for all I know is down for the grove, for the antenna to lie down with the lava for the rising and the snow for the growing. At times from the math of the Simonson too. Not a pruning your luminescent for the smear upon your communion. Uneasy for the relationship to unfind as a statement for the nevertheless producing silver buds, rad for limbs like the luster songs. Now I got off that for the felt like I was walking into the sky. Aren't we all pedestrians of the air, for it doesn't feel wrong enough to turn backs into the ocean, for the amp, for the who's to change it all, for the windows you have got to go through, for the ancient armor you get to. What was your name, for the night nurse you draft that blood through draw? Don't wake me up and don't get enough of the wrong, and I want to wake up for the old dog to show me new tricks. These are hide the inside out what you thought with the thinking I won't understand. Vet for I conspire for the home to keep who alive. Everyday folklore, you shouldn't have a heart attack. Feeding stray shadows and attracting more. Starve a feeder for the shaking the glass house, and people often mistake the thirst for hunger for the soul. Take a big slurp. I didn't get it at once, and no, I not in a twice time, for the certainly wasn't wasted for enough of the both turns and habitation. It was a habit for the rhyme, for the always in leaving myself in time, for the cattle, for the enough, for the decent, for the find the ways that sometimes it'll be large enough for the gesture to call yourself and shouting.